It's a haunted house.
I don't want
She's
it.
definitely afraid of haunted houses, but at least it's not real ghosts. Well, there are real ghosts in here, actually.
Ah, no! Send help.
What seemed like a fairy tale romance for Ghost Adventures star Aaron Goodwin has turned into a chilling nightmare. His wife Victoria is now accused of plotting his murder with a convicted killer from a Florida prison, somebody you may recognize. Behind their picture-perfect social media posts lies an alleged twisted scheme that has left the paranormal community in shock. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, this is just a bizarre one, to say the least. What began with a seemingly fairy tale beginning has turned into a real-life nightmare for Ghost Adventure star Aaron Goodwin because his wife, Victoria, now stands accused of plotting his murder in such a chilling scheme that, honestly, it kind of reads like a script from one of his own paranormal investigations. The wife of the Ghost Adventures host has been arrested and accused of conspiring to murder her husband in a scheme involving an inmate in a Florida prison. I mean, this is shocking because you have this alleged dark and twisted plot, and that couldn't contrast more with the couple's seemingly happy public persona, particularly online. Now, here's what we know. The story takes us back to October of last year when authorities say Victoria Goodwin initiated contact with an inmate in a Florida prison, and TMZ says that they have identified this inmate as Grant Amato, who is a convicted killer himself. Now, when I read the story and I heard Grant Amato, my ears perked up. Why? I've been at Law&Crime since 2017. If you have been following Law&Crime for a while, you might remember this guy, because as a matter of fact, we covered his trial. He is serving a life sentence for a shocking triple murder. A former nurse, he was convicted in 2019 for the brutal killings of his father, his mother, and his brother in their Florida home.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. Further finding, we further find beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the offense, the defendant personally carried, displayed, used, threatened to use, or attempted to use a firearm or a weapon. Further finding, we further find that during the commission of the crime, the defendant actually possessed a firearm. Further finding 2, we further find that during the commission of the crime, the defendant discharged a firearm. Further finding 3, we further find that during the commission of the crime, the defendant discharged a firearm and caused the death of Margaret Amato. Verdict, count 2, Chad Amato. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. Further finding, we further find beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the offense, the defendant personally carried, displayed, used, threatened to use, or attempted to use a firearm or a weapon. Further findings 1, we further find that during the commission of the crime, the defendant actually possessed a firearm. Further finding 2, we further find that during the commission of the crime, the defendant discharged a firearm. Further findings 3, we further find that during the commission of the crime, the defendant discharged a firearm and caused the death of Chad Amato. Verdict, count 3, Cody Amato. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. Further finding, we further find beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the offense, the defendant personally carried, displayed, used, threatened to use, or attempted to use a firearm.
And his crimes were later featured in the Paramount documentary Control Alt Desire, which delved into the disturbing details of his actions. And according to police documents that were obtained by TMZ, Victoria allegedly discussed plans with Amato to have Aaron killed while he was on location filming his popular Discovery Plus show. And, by the way, just as an aside here in case you're not familiar, Ghost Adventures follows paranormal investigator Zach Baggins and his team, which includes Aaron Goodwin, as they explore haunted locations all over the world. Pretty crazy story, right? Look, but we wanted to bring this one to you. We definitely wanted to shed a light on this and dedicate an episode to that. And let me just quickly call out and thank our sponsor for helping make this episode happen, and that is Dermazine. Now look, there is a big issue that is affecting a lot of people out there. It is dandruff. Most people assume that this is just from a dry scalp, but it's actually caused by an overgrowth of fungus called malassezia, and that fungus, it feeds on the oils inside most shampoos, even some of the ones from dermatologists, but that is where our amazing sponsor Dermazine comes in. So Dermazen's clinically tested overnight serum has a 92% success rate and nearly 3,000 positive testimonies. So while you sleep, it disrupts the biofilm around the fungus, which most dandruff shampoos never touch. So you can target flakes at the source. And right now, you can get their scalp relief system for an extra 10% off plus free shipping. And that includes the overnight serum, dermatologist recommended shampoo, and a scalp scrubber to clear buildup, boost circulation. So experience flake-free confidence every day. Go to dermazen.com/sidebar for an extra 10% off and free shipping, or tap the link below to get yours today. Now, back to the case. What makes this all really, really strange is that the couple, as I mentioned, seem to be living this fairy tale life. Social media posts from both Aaron and Victoria paint a happy picture of the two. They even tied the knot in a whimsical ceremony at Disneyland's Haunted Mansion in August of 2022. But apparently behind the scenes, their marriage might have been in some trouble. And as I mentioned earlier, this alleged plot supposedly involved this inmate, Grant Amato. And according to police, Victoria told investigators that she first learned about Amato through the documentary that I mentioned before and began corresponding with him as pen pals while he was incarcerated. And despite his alleged role in this scheme, though, Grant Amato has not yet been charged by Nevada prosecutors in connection with this alleged attempted contract killing. Now, before we go any further into this, I want to bring back onto the show Detective Eric Barnes, who always helps us out when it comes to these very strange investigations. Detective, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time. Just your overall thoughts on this? I mean, what part do you want to hit first? Do you want to hit the fact that, you got this television star whose wife is now accused of trying to plot his murder, or the fact that you have somebody on the outside who allegedly has been contacting an inmate to carry out a murder for hire plot? We're going to get through all the details, but this is unique.
Yeah, there is, Jesse. It's a lot to unpack here. Anytime you hear about someone plotting to kill someone they're married to, that in itself is just full of questions. But then when you start adding in the fact that you have reality TV stars contacting inmates, I mean, this is just unbelievable.
How common are murder for hire plots?
Murder for hire is one of those things that is not a common occurrence. Like you don't come across those too often. A detective may investigate maybe one their whole career.
This is a big question that I don't ask enough. If this is true, taking these allegations as true, why would somebody resort to this as opposed to a divorce if she was truly unhappy? I mean, we could talk about that generally. How many times spouses are accused or end up killing, accused of killing or convicted of killing their significant other. Why go that route as opposed to a divorce?
Well, when I was reading the article, I'm not investigating the case, so I haven't had time to kind of dig into the evidence. And once more gets released, I think we'll definitely be able to tell. But, one of the first indicators in situations like this, when marriage seems to be going down and the fact that he's a television star, sometimes people are worth more dead than they are alive. And so I always tend to think that financial matters are a huge motivator in these situations.
Now, I'm going to get a little bit more into the Grant Amato connection to this, but why do you think he hasn't been charged yet, criminally charged in connection with this plot?
Prosecutors are very careful on cases like this. You have to take into account that his past history as an inmate and his credibility may be something that they don't want to rush to judgment with just using his statements. Also, he may be cooperating. It just depends on what strategy the prosecutors are using. And I think that is going to heavily rely upon the type of evidence that they've already secured on the case.
So that's interesting, because let's talk about what the evidence is. How'd they find this out? Well, while Amato is not yet facing charges, police say it was through him that they were able to actually uncover this alleged scheme, because according to the complaint that TMZ reviewed, Florida prison officials discovered and seized a contraband phone that he was apparently using. And what they reportedly discovered on there was chilling. Text messages exchanged between Victoria and the inmate, if verified as evidence, they are quite damning, because according to the Daily Mail, in one message, Victoria allegedly appears to have written, "Am I a bad person because I chose to end his existence, not divorce?" Now, how exactly was Victoria supposedly working with this inmate? So in October, again, this is according to the Daily Mail, Aaron was in California filming Ghost Adventures with his longtime co-star, paranormal investigator Zach Baggins. And police say Victoria provided this inmate with his filming schedule and his hotel location so that this would be carried out while he was out of state. The couple actually reside in Nevada. And the criminal complaint revealed more of these texts, as reported by the Daily Mail, where the inmate, Amato, allegedly messaged the purported hitman saying, "He's asleep right now in the hotel room. I need to know what's going on. Can I get an update? Was it done?" So this suggests that there might be more to this, because we don't really know how far Victoria allegedly took this plot. If she did plot this, what happened to the hitman? We know Aaron was never actually confronted by any sort of hitman. So what happened to that person? How did Amato get in contact with that person? Are police still searching for him? As of right now, it's all uncertain. That's what makes this also quite bizarre. But what we do know is that authorities claim Victoria agreed to pay the hitman a total of $11,515, very specific amount there, with an upfront payment of $2,500. And after months of investigating, police arrested her on March 6 in Clark County, Nevada, on charges of solicitation to commit murder and conspiracy murder. She was held on a $100,000 bail, made her first court appearance yesterday for an arraignment, and she has denied these allegations. Her defense is that this was all just a fantasy, that she was never intending to do anything to Aaron. And regarding the text messages, as reported by TMZ, she claimed that she was just, quote, daydreaming or fantasizing about being without her husband. And as for the money that she allegedly sent to the inmate, she claims that was just for the inmate to have a cell phone, not for a murder-for-hire plot. Problem is, and this is key, she apparently did admit to authorities that her marriage with Aaron was in some kind of trouble, or at the very least admitted to police that she told Amato that her marriage was in trouble. But there are two things that make this difficult to understand. For one, as I mentioned earlier, you really wouldn't see the signs of distress by the looks of the couple's online persona. And second, Aaron apparently didn't think anything was wrong in their marriage. Sources close to Aaron, who, by the way, has over 660,000 Instagram followers and is a beloved figure in the paranormal community, reportedly told TMZ that he was, quote, blindsided and devastated at this turn of events. And the sources also told TMZ that he believed he was in a happy marriage and had no idea about his wife's alleged scheming. Back to Detective Barnes. Detective, how do investigators determine whether text messages like the ones I read, like, for example, am I a bad person because I chose to end his existence, not divorce? How do they know that's a genuine threat or a genuine step towards trying to carry out this plot?
You know, I think the first step, Jesse, is just determining the validity of those texts. Was Aaron actually out of town at the location she was providing? I think determining his schedule and seeing if he was actually where the text said he was, I think that is going to tell you right there. And, you know, good luck to having somebody believe that this was just some fantasy. When you start discussing large sums of money and cash being exchanged, and you're on a legal cell phone inside a prison with someone that's already associated with committing a murder, it's just very hard for an average person to delve into that.
Well, that specific amount is weird too, right? That specific amount of the money?
Yes, and I would be interested as to why that number was that number. And, you know, those things are going to all be corroborated by the interviews that they do, that law enforcement does with the alleged hitman and also the middleman that helped set this up.
By the way, how does an inmate have a cell phone?
Sometimes, you know, in these facilities, there are ways that inmates get things that they want. You know, sometimes when visitors may smuggle it in, and sometimes, you know, there's guards that bring in contraband. And it's just a problem that we deal with because, you know, money talks, and sometimes people's values are questioned.
Have you seen cases before? Maybe not necessarily where somebody sees a story of a convicted killer and then decides to contact them and then orchestrate a murder for hire plot. But have you seen cases before where somebody who is behind bars is able to orchestrate a crime on the outside? Again, assuming these allegations are true.
You know, those sort of things are pretty common because, you know, if you look at the wife, she probably doesn't associate with these type of individuals that are willing to do murder for hires. So she doesn't know where to go to do something like that. And that's not the world that she lives in. So when she reaches out to someone, she's taking a very big risk. Even with an inmate, like that's his way. Essentially, if he's able to drum up this conversation enough, that may be something that he can get to his attorney and take to a prosecutor and help get out of jail a little bit sooner because he's helped unravel this murder for hire plot. And so you just never can be trusting of individuals in this situation. And the more people you get involved in these type situations, the greater risk there is that someone else is going to make a mistake.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. I am curious, though, like whether it's not even a type of crime like this or whatever it is, but Is it possible, do you see it common that people who are locked up are able to communicate to someone on the outside, like a purported hitman who they can't find, carry out attack X, Y, and Z, do this? I mean, I imagine he's not the only person, who, again, assuming the allegations are true, who are able to do this and coordinate activity on the outside of prison.
You know, it's more typical in drug and narcotic investigations, not typically murder for hire investigations. I mean, you're planning a murder over text messages. You know, it's just very unheard of because people are trying to keep those plans secret, and for you to send it in text to a phone that's inside a facility, it just doesn't make much sense.
Now, by the way, I mentioned we still don't know who this purported hitman is or if there even really is one. So I'm going to ask it to you two different ways. If there is one, what are police likely doing to try to track down this person? And if there isn't one, do you think that would help Victoria's defense that maybe this wasn't real?
That's a touchy situation. I think that regardless of whether there was a hitman or not, her plan is still there. It sounds like her plan was there and she was making plans. The thing that you mentioned earlier about the $2,500 deposit, I would be interested as to see how that money changed place with the middleman being locked up in prison. She couldn't physically drop off the cash to him. So I would love to know if there are bank transactions that maybe they could tie to a third individual.
Why would Grant Amato be interested in being involved in this? Any idea? If he's not getting money, and he doesn't have a connection to this, and this is a complete stranger. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they were having some sort of communication, and he felt for her in some way. I don't know, but you tell me what you might be investigating. If you were a part of this investigation, and you're trying to see what his connection is, why he would get involved in this, what can you tell us?
I don't know what his connection could be at this point, other than there's some financial gain that would come out of it. But if you're already locked up, I mean, what is it going to provide for you? Some extra commissary, a few bags of chips, extra phone calls. I don't know what he could get out of this communication that would be enough for him to take this kind of risk. Sometimes people are lured into the fact that, he's actually having a conversation with the female on the outside, and she's a very high profile female because of her association with her husband. So that could be interesting as well on his behalf. But it just doesn't make sense on why he would get involved in this if he's not going to have some great benefit.
So I want to dive a little bit more into what makes this case really strange, other than everything I mentioned. And it's the fact that this whole, and I keep using this word, but the whole seemingly fairy tale love story that these two had going on, and then now what she's accused of doing. Because at least you have to wonder, maybe is that what Victoria allegedly wanted people to think about their lives? So before we get into the social media posts, I just got to get a little bit more background about these two. So you have Aaron Goodwin. He's this longtime investigator, cameraman for the hit paranormal series Ghost Adventures. According to his bio on the Travel Channel, it says, referred to by many as a teddy bear or Zach's bait of choice, Aaron actually hates to be left alone in attics or just about anywhere. You can also expect to hear him say dude about 20 times per episode. Always armed with a camera, Aaron travels around the world with the team to record what they experience in each haunted location. Now, Victoria, who apparently describes herself on Instagram as an athlete and rare illness plus CPTSD warrior, has been open about her struggles with achalasia. This is a rare condition that affects swallowing, and in her journey with chronic illness, she did an interview back in December on the Motivational Talks with Ash podcast, and she spoke about her diagnosis, how it derailed her dreams of becoming a professional golfer. And she's also been an advocate for mental health and chronic illness awareness, sharing her story to inspire others. And back to you, Detective Barnes, in cases like this, where you have one person who seems blindsided by the other's actions, how often do you see that in your experience? Do people typically show signs of, being unaware that this comes out of nowhere?
Typically, there is one party that's quote unquote left in the dark. My heart goes out to Aaron, and I can't imagine being blindsided by something like this. Not only is he losing someone that he chose to be a partner with, but to realize that, she was actually plotting to have him killed. I can't imagine that. And I also think this is a great occasion for law enforcement that we are actually able to intervene before the act took place.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that people that are involved in these relationships, you just never know what pushes someone else over edge, and you never know what goes on behind closed doors. People can portray that life is great to everyone on the outside, and obviously she did a great job if her husband didn't realize there was big problems.
Yeah, It's true, because you really don't know what people are capable of or what's going on. And let me put this in a different perspective. So I want to do a deep dive now into the social media posts. We analyzed multiple posts, both on Aaron's account and Victoria's account, and they paint this picture of a loving relationship. From what we can see, they've been together since at least 2018. The oldest post that we could find was from November of 2018. It reads, "I'm so thankful for her. She is there for me when I'm down and up and makes me laugh all day. She is so wonderful. I love every minute with her." The two even had, as I mentioned, their wedding at the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland. Aaron posted photos of the couple on that special day, writing, "It finally happened. We got married. After postponing many times due to COVID, we got our day. I couldn't be happier." 2023, Aaron took Victoria to a haunted house, documented that adventure with her, as seen here.
Got this, babe.
I don't like it. I might throw up.
It's a haunted house.
I don't want
She's
it.
definitely afraid of haunted houses, but at least it's not real ghosts. Well, there are real ghosts in here, actually.
No. Send help.
And then back in August of last year, Aaron posted in commemoration of their anniversary, writing, "2 years ago today, I got to marry my best friend. I'm so lucky to have you in my life, hon." And then on Valentine's Day this year, so that's February, about, 4 months after the alleged plot, and just weeks before Victoria's arrest, Victoria shared a photo of the two of them playing mini golf, captioning it, "Mini golf with my Valentine." And then this Lego set she built for Aaron, captioning it, "Finally finished my Valentine gift. I love you so much." And she also has posts commemorating their first date and anniversaries.
We're on an expedition to find dinosaurs.
And maybe get lost.
The Lost in Jurassic Park tour.
This is the east side of Oahu. You're about 40 minutes from North Shore here. But if
It's cool. You gotta check it out. It's awesome.
So many cool things to see. Music videos filmed here,
Lost.
movies, TV shows.
If you love Lost, you're gonna love this place. Plus,
And-
Lost is filmed on other islands, so we got a lot of work to do and
Lost,
go to those spots
Jurassic
too.
Park, Jurassic World, Hawaii Five-0, Jumanji.
So
Sorry, not all of us are a million feet tall.
Okay, detective, lot to make here. How often do investigators look at these social media posts? What are they looking at it for? And what do you think the significance of it could be in this kind of case?
Jesse, the significance of social media is that any person can be whoever they want to be on social media. And it could be the furthest person from reality. You have the ability to create images and to portray to the world and basically paint a picture. Use pictures and posts to kind of give people insight into what you want them to see. And it sounds like she was doing that. If the allegations are true, then what she appeared to be doing was painting a picture of this perfect relationship and staying in character, to give herself an alibi.
That could be a very good prosecution argument. The defense's argument would be, she didn't do this. She loves her husband. Look at these posts. Look at this. How can someone fake this? How can someone orchestrate a plot to kill and then be, lovey-dovey? You'd have to be a sociopath to be able to do this. And I wonder if that would be a point of contention or a point of disagreement moving forward, Detective.
It sounds like it would. I think that there's a very key point as well in this that I think the defense would have to overcome, and that's the fact that the plot and the plan was for this to take place while he was out of town.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it gives her further distance away from the crime. When it happens in your own backyard, the spouse is the first person police look at. But when you're hundreds of miles away from your residence, it kind of gives the wife a little room and gives her an alibi that, I was here at my house, minding my business in my daily routine, and I'm a victim of this crime.
It's a really, really good point. Look, I'll tell you this, as of now, Victoria remains in custody, but Aaron Goodwin's future remains uncertain. I will tell you, though, one thing is clear. This paranormal investigator who spent years confronting ghosts and spirits, he now faces a chilling reality far closer to home. Detective Eric Barnes, thanks so much for coming on. It was great seeing you. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.